When I make videos about marriage and divorce, I get two kinds of comments. I get, most commonly, comments from men who've had similar experiences, and they'll say to me, "How on earth did you know that happened? It's almost like you were watching my life unfold. Do you know my ex-wife? It sounds like you married her sister." Those kinds of comments are the most common. They probably make up 75 to 80% of the comments from the men who have been through a divorce. The kind of comments that I get that are opposing that are comments from guys who have not been through a marriage or divorce, and of course they will be saying, "Well, why did you marry her?" And I think that these guys don't realize that we never divorce the women we marry. These women are completely different people. Even though they look the same, they are not the same. They go through a transformation. And today, I want to talk a little bit about why that happens, how it happens, and what we can do to avoid it. So let's talk about it. There's a reason why our stories are so similar. It's because throughout time, these stories have repeated themselves over and over and over and over again for thousands of years. Now, granted, the technologies are different and there's a lot of other cultural differences that have occurred, but over that time, we have created these archetypes, these images, these ideas of characters and characteristics that group together that we see in each other. And we tell the tales of our culture with these archetypes in mind. You know, Star Wars is a perfect example of a hero story, and Luke plays the hero, and of course the villain is his father, who is Darth Vader. Spoiler alert. But these archetypes are the basis for the way we converse, the way we communicate history and the stories of our lives and the stories of the lives past. Well, these archetypes are so deeply rooted into our subconscious minds that we adopt them in some ways in our own personalities. And women do too. It's not just men, women do absolutely. But we take on these roles when we are performing different tasks in our lives. So, a soldier in battle will certainly take on a leadership role or a soldier's role or the warrior role. These kinds of things are very common. Well, when we're dating, we also take on roles as well. And women like to take on the role of the lover or the maiden or some other positive female archetype. The thing that we don't understand as men, since we tend to have this, halo image of women, this angelic image of women, and we hold them to this wonderful standard, and we see them as being these divine creatures that we pursue and we desire. And since we pursue and desire them, they can only be good, because we wouldn't pursue and desire things that were not good. Well, a woman can portray herself as an archetype that is positive in order to hide negative characteristics. And I would argue that we all do that to some extent when we're dating. I think that we all put our best foot forward. We want to be our best selves when we're dating someone. But it can be much more significant. As men, though, I think that we tend to overlook some of the negative characteristics when they rear their ugly heads, and we focus only on those positive things that we're drawn to. And as a result, when we marry a woman, we're marrying this wonderful, lovely person. But the truth of the matter is, she may have been telling us who she is all along, and we just haven't been paying attention. We just haven't been watching for these characteristics. Disney does a great job of writing stories with archetypes. Snow White, obviously, she's the maiden, and Prince Charming, he's, the prince, and of course the prince is coming to save the maiden from whatever evil lurks in the forest. This is a very typical story. This is an archetypal story. And Disney does a great job of using these archetypes to tell charming stories. So I'm not going to beat up on Disney too much here, because as adults we should be able to see through this stuff, but unfortunately it gets imprinted very deeply into our subconscious mind. All of Disney's stories have some kind of archetypal imagery in them, and they all follow these basic storytelling methods. And these methods are historic. I mean, these things go back to Greek mythology. You can see the same storylines in almost every single one of Disney's stories that were told originally in ancient myth at some point. So these stories are so deeply embedded into our subconscious mind that it's very difficult for us, especially in a time when we're emotionally charged, not to fall for some imagery and to tell ourselves subconsciously how this story is going. So when we fall in love with a maiden, we can't help but take on the role of Prince Charming, or of the warrior, or of the lover, or some other character that we see, the hero, in an effort to kind of complete this whole thing. And also, I think as men, we identify that women are very whimsical in a lot of their thoughts, and they don't think realistically, and so they are more sucked into this kind of imagery. And so if we're trying to seduce a woman, or trying to get a woman to love us, and we play this role in opposition to the role that she's playing, we're much more likely to get her to agree, to go along with it. Anyway, the problem with these archetypes is that we have two. We have the archetype that we present to the world, that we show who we are to everyone else around us, especially when we're young, we do this. But then there's this dark archetype. There's something else inside us that isn't quite being published. We're not sending that out to the world. We're holding that one close to the vest. This is your true nature. And we all know that if we were to reveal our true nature, especially when we're young, that if we were rejected on those terms, that rejection would be devastating. It's very, very hard to go into a relationship being your absolute, honest to God, true self and get rejected. So playing these roles is something that has been done, for thousands of years, and I think it's still being done today. It's done with, apps these days, or it's done on social media or whatever, but these are the kinds of things that people do. A long time ago, I read this very important phrase, and it stuck in my mind. And I see it, and I think about it quite often. So, if you want to help someone, you tell them the truth. If you want someone to like you, you tell them what they want to hear. So politicians do this really well. A really good politician will tell you what you want to hear, and they will like you. You will like them. If you're a man and you're seducing a woman, you'll tell her what she wants to hear, and she will like you. And she'll do the same to you. If she's trying to seduce you, if she's trying to trap you in a relationship, she will tell you what you want to hear. People do this all the time. Here, I'm going to tell you the truth, because the truth is that as men in these relationships, if we can break through this bullshit, we can clean up a lot of our act and get rid of these deceptive women that inevitably are going to come into our lives. The truth is, you've got to deal with your own insecurities right from the get-go. So if you're going into a relationship and you are not comfortable in your own skin, or you're not feeling good about where you are in your life, or you're not whatever you think you ought to be, then you have no business being in a relationship. You have no business getting married. Maybe you can fool around with somebody from time to time, but if you haven't achieved your full masculine frame, meaning that you have achieved enough in your life that you feel confident in who you are and what you want from life and how you see your life going, then you are going to be susceptible to being tricked by a false archetype, a woman's presentation of an archetype to you. The only way that you should be getting into a relationship is once you have gotten to that place in your life where you feel fully confident with who you are. I was about 85 to 90% there. I married my wife at a time when I was doing very well overall. I had a great job, had great money, had a house, had just about everything that I needed. But because I had been a single father for such a long time, and I'd had a handful of short-term relationships during that time, I was a little desperate for getting a woman in my life. I was feeling those pangs of loneliness. And those pangs of loneliness will do you in faster than anything. So if you feel lonely, then you're not there yet. You're just not there yet. If you feel like you need a woman in your life, then you're not there. You don't need anything. Now, if you would like to have a woman in your life, if you think it would be fun to have a woman in your life, if you think it would enhance your life, these are all good reasons. But if you feel like you need a woman in your life, like need is, I'm thinking food, water, air, shelter, these primary needs that you have in life, no, you do not need a woman in your life. You absolutely do not. And if you go into a relationship like that, you're going to put yourself at a disadvantage and you are going to pay a price for it. So do not get into a relationship when you think you need a relationship. That will always end badly. Period. It will just end badly. Don't do it. Because I was in need of a relationship when I met my wife, despite all the other positive things I had going on, I overlooked or ignored warning signs that things were not what I wanted them to be, that she was not the right woman for me. I was overwhelmed with her beauty. I was overwhelmed with the fact that she wanted to be with me. I was overwhelmed with my loneliness and my need to find some feminine companionship, not just for me, but for my son. And I was trying to check all these boxes that I thought were important. But the one box I didn't check was whether or not she was the right person for the job. Like, I had all these qualifications that I needed to identify, that I needed to be filled, but I didn't make sure that she had all the qualifications to do those things, that she was the right person for it. And I kind of fooled myself into believing that where she lacked, she would make it up. She would find a way to improve, that she would get better, that I would help her. I mean, I gave her every excuse in the book. Anyway, men tend to do this. We tend to qualify everything and say, okay, I'm just gonna let that one slide. That one's not as important. She'll be fine. I can make it work. No, you can't. You can't. You've got to find a woman who is positively, she's in a strong feminine place in her life. She has a strong feminine, not feminist, strong feminine frame. In other words, she knows who she is as a woman. She knows what she wants as a woman. She knows what she wants from a man. She knows what she wants in a relationship. She knows what she wants as a family. She knows what she wants as a married woman. She is the source of her own happiness. She's not looking to you to make her happy. She doesn't need you. These are all the same things that you need to be looking for in her. Because if she needs you, or she's not happy, and she thinks that you will make her happy, yeah, or having babies will make her happy. No. None of that's going to happen. Babies will not make her happy. You will not make her happy. A house won't make her happy. Nothing will make her happy. She's got to be happy. So you've got to marry the right woman from the very beginning. And if you don't, you're going to pay the price. You're going to end up finding out that the maiden that you married really turned out to be the witch, or the Karen, or the evil queen, or some other terrible archetype that is going to tear you up and leave you for broke. So you've got to be careful. You've really got to be careful here. The only way that you can really know for sure what you're going to get out of a woman is to make sure you take the time to get to know her. Go slow with the intimacy in the beginning as much as you can. I know there's a lot of social expectations these days to get to intimacy relatively quickly, but take your time with that. Understand rationally what happens when you enter into an intimate relationship, and how the the dopamine and the oxytocin and all those other neurotransmitters start affecting your brain. You feel the testosterone flowing, and it does feel good. There's no question about it, and you feel great and powerful and strong and healthy, and it's just a great feeling. Don't allow that to cloud your judgment. You've got to remain rational through this whole process. Taking time allows you to observe her under stressful situations. Stress is the great sorter. So if she's presenting as an archetype, as a maiden, for example, or as a princess, or something along those lines, and you marry her, or let's say you don't marry her. Let's just put her to the test without that. And let's say something goes kind of sideways in her life. Let's not make it too big. Maybe she gets into a car accident, and maybe her car insurance is canceled. And so she's going to lose her car. So it's a pretty big deal. How does she handle that? What is her reaction? How angry does she get? What does she say about the other driver? How does she deal with the insurance company? Let's say the whole thing is her fault, that she didn't have insurance, she didn't pay her damn policy, so she's irresponsible, and she lost control of the car on like an icy day, and she, ran into a building or something, and now she's responsible for not only her own car, but damage to the building. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. How is she handling that? Because what you're going to observe is what's going to come out of her under any stressful situation. If she is vindictive and angry and bitter and nasty, well, that's just a preview of what's going to happen if you ever marry this girl and you have a stressful situation in your life, or you get a divorce. That's who she is. If she handles it with grace and humility and she's responsible in the way that she manages it, well, that's what you're going to get in the event that there's a problem in your marriage. So observing a woman under stressful situations or stressful circumstances is critical before making a commitment to her. When you see the way she behaves at difficult times, you can get an insight into what's going on inside of her, really. Because no matter what happens, no matter who someone is pretending to be, when you squeeze them, you see what comes out. I've said this on a couple of other videos. It's like when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. Why? Because that's what's inside. When you squeeze you, if anger and, vile behavior comes out. Why? Because that's what's inside. Squeeze her and she's vindictive and angry and bitchy. Why? Because that's what's inside. Period. It takes the filters off. It just makes it raw. You're getting raw reaction and behavior that is impossible to simulate. So you've got to wait and watch and see what's going to happen. If I ever get into another relationship with a woman, I would never commit to her until I could see her under the most difficult of circumstances, something unexpected. Because I want to know, how is she going to respond when her whole world is collapsing around her, or at least it seems that way. I want to see someone who has grace and humility and is looking for a positive outcome for everyone. Those are the characteristics that you want to look for in a woman. If you don't see that, you need to turn and walk away. What happens in most marriages is men don't get a chance to put their women to the test, or they never get to observe those behaviors. And so they commit, they get married, and then, like in every marriage, the stress begins. So living together is stressful. Financial issues can be stressful. Having children is definitely stressful. Careers are stressful. So when you start adding all of these things together, you're going to create a chronic to acute level of stress that's going to occur from a day-to-day basis. And then you throw just the managing of a household, getting the trash cans out on time, emptying the dishwasher, getting the laundry done, cleaning the house, all of those things, mowing the lawn. There's just so many things to do. There's so many things to do. Taking care of the babies, changing the diapers, painting rooms. There's just so many things that need to be done on a regular basis. And each one of these things just adds another little tiny bit layer of stress. What happens in most cases when that marriage ends in divorce is that somewhere along the line, one or both persons broke. They just broke. They couldn't handle it. Women are oftentimes the first to break because they tend to have a stronger negative bias. They tend to see negativity much sooner and they react much more significantly than men do. When they see that negative energy because of the stress, they interpret it as a threat and they want out. And that's when you're going to get the I'm not happy, I don't know what I want from my life, all that bullshit, and next thing you know, you're sleeping on the couch and then you've got a new address. So the archetype of the maiden is now gone. And what you're going to be left with is with whatever she was hiding when she met you. Now, the archetype of the witch or the vixen or all these other dark archetypes will come out. The Karen, and she can be oftentimes vindictive, angry, resentful, vengeful. And these are not the kinds of qualities that you want in a person, especially at a time when you're splitting your lives up, because there are so many opportunities for her to make your life so much more miserable than it already is. So to those guys in the comments who said, you married the wrong woman, well, you may be right. I didn't think I married the wrong woman, and I don't think most of the guys here that are divorced thought they married the wrong woman. They thought they were marrying the right woman. Unfortunately, frequently, we fool ourselves, and we are fooled by them as well, into believing that we're marrying someone different. And not until we are faced with stressful situations, difficult times, does the real woman appear. And once that real woman appears, when she comes out of her shell, and we start seeing what we really have ourselves gotten ourselves into, then it's too late. Then we're in. So then it's just a matter of trying to make the best of a really bad situation for most guys. But unfortunately, that rarely works. So to you guys who think, hey, how did you know my story? How do you know what happened in my life? How do you have all these similarities? It's because they're all the same. The stories of bad marriages, it's just amazing. If you read through the comments, how many of them are similar. It's just like the same, like we all married the same woman. We all married the same bitch. Yeah, and it's the same thing that happens. It's because we all fall into the same patterns. The patterns are there, That's all it is. It's just patterns. And the archetypes serve as a structure for those patterns to occur. And once you have the archetypes in place, whether they're real or false, you can kind of predict the story. Because we've been told those stories, like I said, for 1,000 years. And we'll probably tell those stories for 1,000 more years, assuming we survive this. And there will be people 1,000 years from now who maybe will be watching my videos saying, holy shit, how did they know that way back then? Why didn't someone tell me? Yeah, it's the same story over and over and over again. All right, you guys, that's all I got for you today. Please remember to like and subscribe. I'd like to hear your comments. So please let me know what your thoughts are. See you in the next video. And until then, stay healthy. And if you can, stay single.